This week we learned that the U.S. authorities, who have for years not only accused 6 JP Chase & Company employees of rigging precious metals futures, but got many to plead guilt, are now, more importantly, building a criminal case against the bank itself. The previously unreported investigation of the global bank's parent company, part of a wide-ranging attempt by the federal government to maintain shreds of financial market credibility, raises the now new prospect of criminal charges against higher-up executives within the United States' largest bank. And perhaps even larger implications are coming to this once considered too big to fail, therefore we must bail them out bank. One which today in 2020 and seemingly year after year, the Bank for International Settlements Financial Stability Board describes as being the number one global systematic important bank. In terser terms, JP Stability is consistently ranked by the Central Bank of Central Banks as being the largest threat to our global financial system functioning smoothly. Today we're going to dig into some details about this current building criminal case against JP Chase. And 2, we'll have a brief look back at what happened the last time entities this powerful were in the business of suppressing precious metals prices both for profit and power. Hello out there, this is James Anderson with SD Bullion. For the past dozen years investing and working in the bullion industry, I can humbly say that I have a pretty sharp understanding of the sentiment that many precious metals interested investors have. The range of our perspectives is wide and colorful, with delusional bulls to the world's going to end bears. But this week's news builds burgeoning hopes that our financial markets might one day see some criminal higher-up market-rigging bankster prosecutions once and for all. Cynics will rightly claim our financial markets have for some time been acting under shades of criminality, with anti-competitive behaviors and crony capitalism run amok. It's too exhausting to even recount all the evidence those cynics have for making such points, but we'll cover a few here. To begin, we have a clip from a channel whose program I was humbled to be on this past week. The Kendi Financial Hour today published a live roundtable with other precious metals analysts discussing their thoughts on this newest JP criminal bank probe news. We'll begin with the close of a somewhat broken-hearted cynical take by Chris Marchese, only to be followed up by Rob Kirby rattling off some potential fraud as a business model evidence at hand.
Having heard this over the past decade about, investigations, nothing's really material has ever come of it. So, I just don't think it'll be any different this time.
What about you, Rob? Are you as pessimistic?
Well, I acknowledge that somebody's pointing a finger at JP Morgan and their ill doings, but I want to just share this with you. This is a little book that's produced by a friend of mine. Her name is Catherine Austin Fitz from Solari.com. And what this book is, it's got a title, JP Chase, Selected Legal, Regulatory, and Enforcement Settlements 2002 to 2019.
It's a book.
So let me just give you a list of sums paid for, this is for selected regulatory enforcement settlements by JP Morgan over the last 7 or 18 years. So here's one for 5.3 million. Here's one for 55 million, one for 4.6 million, one for 3.75 million, one for 264 million, one for 61.9 million, one for 1.42 million, one for 152 million, one for 48 million, one for 4 million, one for 48, one for 72, one for 307, one for 3.87, one for 100. One for 595, one for 10.2, one for 388, one for 50, one for 100, one for $1 billion, one for 2.4, one for 12, one for 2.25, one for 280, one for 5.5, one for 15, one for 16, one for $3 billion.
Wow.
One for 22.
Rounding errors.
Okay, so what I'm saying is, you see, what the total in the book, I can't read fast, okay? And there's a lot of pages in this book. And there's billions of dollars in fines, many billions that JP Morgan has paid over the last 18 years. So if you're asking me if I think JP Morgan has finally reached the end of the road, nope.
Swinging back and forth from the optimistic to the cynical camp, we have a couple financial tweets for the week. Given that nothing of any substance has really happened yet, I found this back and forth interesting and telling and you might too. Deborah Robinson tweets, crying tears of joy. JP Morgan's role in metal spoofing is under U.S. criminal probe. Only to have a response further down stating, blah, 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 whatever. Their ship full of $1.3 billion in drugs was caught and nothing happened there. JP Morgan's job is to short the metals markets like bear before it. Spoofing was only considered a crime for the first time last year. This is a diversion. Pam and Russ Martins over at WallStreetOnParade.com had some interesting relative points regarding JP Morgan's seemingly endless alleged financial criminality. They wrote this week some of the following points to consider. They stated, yesterday Bloomberg News reports Tom Sherberg and Liam Vaughn broke the story that JP Morgan Chase is under a criminal probe by the U.S. Department of Justice, DOJ, over charges of rigging gold, silver, and other precious metal markets. 6 traders who worked on the precious metals desk at JP Morgan Chase have been indicted thus far, but this is the first report that the bank itself is under a criminal investigation. This marks the 4th criminal probe of the bank in the past 8 years by the U.S. Department of Justice, with the bank pleading guilty to 3 felony counts in 2 of the prior criminal investigations. There was a time in America when a criminal probe of the nation's largest bank, which holds $1.6 trillion in the life savings of moms and pops at more than 5,300 bank branches across the country, would have been worthy of a front-page headline. Not today. Crime and fraud are so du jour at the bank led by Diamond that not one major newspaper ran the headline on the front page nor anywhere else in the paper. In August, September, and again in November of last year, 2019, the board of directors of JP Morgan Chase were put on notice that the bank they were overseeing under their designated leader, Jamie Dimon, was accused of running a criminal enterprise out of its precious metals desk. They were also aware that at least 2 of those indicted are cooperating with the DOJ in this ongoing investigation, and yet they still awarded Jamie Dimon a pay package of $31.5 million and allowed him to announce that he planned to remain at the bank for another 5 years. This is demonstrably a criminal recidivist bank. Dimon and the board need to be removed. The bank needs to be broken up with the federally insured bank placed under a sane, ethical, competent board of directors. It's debatable when was the last time we had this much financial chicanery and criminality. I presume if we asked those who had to sober up during the Great Depression, they might admit that things got a little crazy and over-levered during the Glass-Steagall-less 1920s Wall Street era. For anyone who had bothered to look at the current U.S. car loan debt bubble, perhaps similar deals measured in gold will be rhyming in time to come. This current stock bubble, by some massively important far-reaching measures, is now more extended than ever before. And by looking back at the Dow Jones measured in gold, we can see we are at 1929 levels here again in the year 2020. The trouble for higher bullish stock values on that chart is the rolling over and likely return beyond 5 and perhaps the parity again one day to come. Regarding the last time forces at large tried to fix and rig precious metals at artificially low values, our history shows the inevitable results that come and follow. That is all for this week. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to give our video a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed to our channel, do that. And finally, be sure to hit the alert button so you don't miss these market updates as they come along. Give us your comments below. Let us know what topics you want to see more coverage on.